Hey guys, welcome back. My name is Katie. I'm adding up Addingtons, and today I'm talking about parenting prodigals, so stick around. If this is your first time here, I am a mom of 8. We own our own business. We homeschool. We're former foster parents. We're an adoptive family, and we just cover everything, all the things. So we are embracing our own brand of crazy, and we want to encourage you through yours. So hit that subscribe button down below and stick around with us. If you've been around for a little while now, you know that we are Christians. And there's a story, well, chances are you've probably heard it, but if not, I do want to read it to you. This is a story that Jesus told his followers to show what God is like. And stick with me because I have a point. So Jesus told his followers, he said, there was a man who had 2 sons, and the younger of them said to his father, "Father, give me the share of the property that's coming to me." And he divided his property between them. Not many days later, the younger son gathered all he had and took a journey into a far country, and there he squandered his property in reckless living. And when he had spent everything, a severe famine arose in that country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him into his fields to feed pigs. And he was longing to be fed with the pods that the pigs ate, and no one gave him anything. But when he came to himself, he said, "How many of my father's hired servants have more than enough bread, but I perish here with hunger? I will arise and go to my father, and I will say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me as one of your hired servants.' And he arose and came to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and felt compassion, and ran and embraced him and kissed him. And the son said to him, 'Father, I've sinned against heaven and before you. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his servants, 'Bring quickly the best robe and put it on him, and put a ring on his finger and shoes on his feet. Bring the fatted calf and kill it, and let us eat and celebrate. For this my son was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.' And they began to celebrate." Now again, if you've been around church or you're a believer yourself, you've probably heard this story many times, and prodigal son is a word that has become part of our culture. So chances are, even if you don't believe, that you've heard this story before, and so many times we hear it and we preach it as an example of how God takes us in. When we turn to him and we come to him humbly, that he gives us far and away more than we deserve and welcomes us back and calls us his children. And all of that is true. So if you've never heard that side of it before, I hope you hear it today. But today I'm going to look at the other side, because we so often focus on the end, which is so beautiful and redemptive and incredibly powerful. And again, if you've never heard that God welcomes you back, then I hope that you hear it from me today. But I want to look at the beginning. The younger son comes to his father and he says, "Give me my share of your property." What we lose in our English translation is the cultural context that happens in. When we look at that in a first century Middle Eastern context, Basically, the son is saying, I wish you were dead, because I'd be better off without you. Asking for his inheritance before his father dies is like the ultimate insult. I actually want to read just that part of the story out of the Jesus Storybook Bible, which we love, love, love. By the way, this is our favorite read aloud for the kids. And even if you don't have kids, oh, it makes me cry. It's so beautiful. I will link it down below if you're interested in finding this. Now, one day, the boy gets to thinking, maybe if I didn't have my dad around telling me what's good for me all the time, I'd be happier. He's spoiling my fun, he thinks. Does my dad really want me to be happy? Does my dad really love me? And I love the way that Sally Lloyd-Jones, the author, has phrased that, because that is really the sentiment behind those words. I'd be better off without you. I wish you were dead. You don't really love me. And the truth of the matter is, with anyone, but especially as parents with children, the truth is that you can love somebody until it hurts. You can pour out for somebody and love them until it breaks you. And it doesn't guarantee that they are going to accept that love. And that can be really hard to accept with anyone, but especially as parents with your children. When you have poured out your life and your resources and your care and your love and your compassion, and they don't want anything to do with it, that's particularly hard. It's a hard place to be, and it's a heartbreaking place to be. And what we often gloss over when we read this story is the father's reaction. The son comes to him and says, give me my money. I hate you. I wish you were dead. You don't have my best interest at heart. I'm going out on my own. You can't stop me. And the father divided his property between them. The father divided his property. He gave the younger son his inheritance, even though he had been completely insulted and had all the years of parenting thrown in his face. He gives the younger son his property, and he doesn't stop him from leaving. Clearly, he's grieved by this. He's sad. He doesn't wish his son away, but he realizes that he cannot force him to feel loved, and he lets him go. And now again, this is absolutely a reflection of God's relationship with us. He doesn't force us to love him or serve him. He wants us. He wants to give us good things, but he gives us the right to reject him. And as a parent with a child, sometimes we reach the point where we have to say, okay, and it's awful. It's terrible. It is. It's painful. I share this because we are in a season of parenting a prodigal. We have poured out and we have given everything we have. And we have a child that doesn't want to accept that love from us. But for those of you who've been hearing me say that I'm a mom of 8 and you're counting and you only ever see 7, that's why. We love you. We don't want this. We don't like this. We are grieved beyond words. But we can't force you to feel loved. We want to give you the world, and we can't make you take it. And it's awful. It is awful to watch your prodigal face the consequences of their choices. It is. It's heartbreaking. And yet they have to come to that decision themselves. Now the Father, we see, obviously is watching. And we don't know how long this takes in this story. We don't know. It's probably years that the Father is watching out the front driveway for his son. That every day he's watching and waiting and praying and hoping that the son that he loves will come back. But he doesn't have any guarantee of that when his son leaves him. The story doesn't tell us at the beginning that the son is going to come home. So, I share this today, one, to let those of you who've been sticking around with us know that there's a reason you'll only ever see 7 of our kids, even though we do have 8 of them, without getting into details. And also to say that if you are parenting a prodigal, I'm so sorry. It's painful. It's painful on days when life goes on and you're doing okay. It's painful on days when it is raw and vulnerable. And as a parent, you will never stop watching and praying and hoping and loving your child with everything in you and hoping that they come back. But there's never a guarantee. And so I share this today, one, to let you know that for as many beautiful and incredible and encouraging things that I love to share, there is a piece of my heart missing. And if you've never heard this story, I hope you hear it from me as someone who is living in this role, that I want you to know that God has the same heart for you. And finally, to say that if you are out there and you are parenting a prodigal, it can be a very lonely place to be. Our culture and our world tells us that we should just try harder. We should just love harder. We should just go make them do the right thing or make the right choice, or we should have done something differently along the road, or any of those things. People mean well, but they don't always understand. In fact, I think most of the time they don't understand. And so if you are the parent of a prodigal, I want you to know, I see you, I know you, I love you. It's terrible. It is. It's terrible. And I'm sitting here waiting and hoping and praying and watching. And I'm here with you while you do too. So, not all of my stuff is going to be sad and down like this. I have 7 other kids who are here and growing and thriving and being wonderful. And as the father in this story stays home and continues to pour into his older son, who is learning to take over the family farm and business and working with him and learning and growing, the father continues to do all of those things while watching for his prodigal. So there's a whole lot of that in my life. There is a whole lot of fun and happy and awesome. And I am still going to share all of those things. because they are also good and important and redemptive. And I don't want you to think that this all overshadows all of those things. But I did want to take a minute and just share. Because again, those magical and miserable and mundane things all coexist in my life. So we're going to share lots of other fun things. If you have questions about our life, please leave those for me, because I want to share and encourage you. But I also wanted to say that we are facing a prodigal situation. And if you are out there, we see you and we understand. And I want you to know that this is a safe place for you. So thanks for being here with us. You guys are awesome. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you next time.